Welcome to No Compromises, a peek into the mind of two old web devs who have seen some things. This is Joel.
And this is Aaron.
Aaron, let's get a little philosophical here. Why do we do what we do? Like when we're writing code, why do we do that? And I know I know you have opinions on this, so I'm just setting up a question to hear your stream of wisdom coming out of your mouth.
Um, well, at the very core of it, we do this work programming
Mhm.
for the user who's going to consume the work in its final form. So there's a lot of times when you can get confused because you think maybe, because there's some conflicting goals that we have,
Mhm.
getting work done, get better quality code, more beautiful ways of doing stuff, learning
Sure.
new things.
Yeah.
There's all these different things we have to balance. But in the end result, we're no different than tech support in a way because we're providing a support for the user, support for the business, all those different things. The
Mhm.
business has a business way of doing, like they figured out how to make money and pay us and do all these things. In order to do that, we have to support them by making the product that they're asking for.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. And as you were saying that, I was even thinking too the user consuming or using the thing we built is maybe not even the person that's paying us to do it or the you're
Mhm.
right. Like there's kind of a level of indirection there. So it's good to have that in mind when building a product.
Yeah, so a lot of the decisions that you make, I think, are more important to focus on the user experience. I'm not just talking about like a nice box here or like pretty colors. I'm just talking a holistic user experience,
Yeah.
understanding what's happening, how that user might react to a success or an error.
Hmm.
All these different things, and planning on what would a brand new user or even a power user, or like understanding your different types of users, what would they expect out of something like this? And
Sure.
knowing that for the most part they don't have the insight into the internal process. So like you give them if you give an error, they're not going to know like what step of the process the error came from unless you
Yeah.
told them, all these different things like that. And so understanding as you go through that process that you have to be a little bit more verbose to people because they're on the outside. And that's really who we're serving when we're building software, is these people that can't see our software.
So you're saying I should never just like return a 429 to somebody in the browser and they'd be like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what's happening. Like I thought I was doing good. I know what a 404 is, but like, yeah. So that's a good point. Um, I had an example in mind. Maybe we could
Okay.
kind of use it to investigate this a little further. And it does actually have to do with error conditions and status codes and things like that.
Okay.
So I'll set it up first without going too deep into the specific thing we were building. But let's just say you can apply to a job listing, but a job is going to expire at some point, right? So what if I've bookmarked that job? I want to come back to it and I want to apply to it tomorrow. And in the meantime, it's expired. So when I was working on this feature, at first like the internal way we built it using Laravel, I think it was in a form request method, it would return a 403, right? Like, oh no, you can't create a job application against that job because that job has expired. That's like a business rule we enforced. But then I thought about it, it's like 403 really isn't, first of all, users not going to know what to do with that because there's nothing they can do with that. And it's just
Mhm.
a little jarring. And so
Well, even as a developer too,
yeah.
if that's an API and I'm interacting with that, I don't understand what that 403 really is,
Right.
because I'm just like, well, I thought I had access to this job listing. Now you're saying I don't have access to the
Yeah.
job listing?
I had access to it yesterday. What happened?
Mhm.
Right. So, what would you do in that case? Because I know what I did, and but I'm just kind of like thinking it through as a thought experiment. What would be a better use case or UX experience for the person getting that to deal with?
Well, that feels like a trap. I don't know.
Aaron,
What
I
did you
want you to
do?
take this thing I thought deeply about for like a whole day, and I want you to solve it on the spot right now.
Yeah. Well, what did you do first of all?
Okay. So what I ended up doing was doing a 302, right? So a redirect. And I coupled that with a banner message explaining what had happened. So this wasn't an API, just to be clear.
Okay.
In the first iteration of this, it was a it was a browser driven UI, and so it would maybe they were on a list of jobs or they had a bookmark or something, and when they clicked through to it, and if it expired in the meantime, it would just bounce them back to the list with a banner saying that job has expired or that job is no longer available. It was something generic, because even it didn't mention expiration, because that's a business rule that a user doesn't care about. But just it's no longer available. Sorry.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, what about? So you said it wasn't an API. How would you handle something? Because I can understand that,
Yeah.
just not saying 403 or whatever, but actually handling those use cases.
Mhm.
I think a lot of Laravel developers actually can understand that, and they've done that. We get into more philosophical debates on like where should you put that logic and how should you do that,
Sure. Right.
whether it's
Yeah.
part of a form request and then you
Mhm.
redirect with an error or whatever. But what about when it's something like I brought up, kind of like an API, and you can't really redirect them to somewhere?
Yeah, that is trickier. And I'll just share before I answer that to give myself time to think. Um, I also considered a 404, right? Because the job isn't there, and maybe in the API scenario that would be a little more useful because that's the client consuming the API knows how to handle a 404, and the way it handles that would probably make sense in this case. But yeah, just returning a 403, like a client might bounce them to a login page or show some generic error. I guess it depends on the quality of your API client. But if it's out of our control, I think I might actually opt for the 404 in an API case. And even for some of those 400 type errors, you can include a body, right? Like you can
Mhm.
include more information that hopefully the API client would pass on to the user.
Yeah, Laravel has built-in things on some of the error generation now that you
Mhm.
can kind of say, like in like a middleware or even a form request or something like that, like return this type of response. So you don't have to just say like throw an error. You can return like a 403 response with some content.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you kind of went down that whole thing. As what I was going to say is, I'm a huge proponent of having an error data object in a way as well from
Right.
an API.
Mhm.
And so when you send these, because we're only talking about status codes, but I'd say sending that error message as well is probably pretty useful. And I guess one quick tangent, I'm going to go on just a side thing. It's kind of
Do
related,
it.
kind of not. Is I like to also, because again we're focusing on the user,
Mhm.
probably the human. I like to write messages that make sense to a human or have a lot of context. So I actually disagree with your comment you made earlier that the expiration doesn't matter. It's just not available or whatever. You said that was an
Mhm.
internal business rule.
Yeah.
I would include that in the message and saying like this job posting has expired, and so it's no longer available, because otherwise, I just think it's a little bit more jolting for a user
Mhm.
saying like, why is it just gone? Like I don't trust this site. They're always just
Oh,
deleting stuff,
sure.
versus saying like, oh, I guess I didn't know there was an expiration. Some of these expire. And maybe you've then encouraged the user to move faster because they know now that
Mhm.
things expire versus, an unsettling thing, which is things just get deleted randomly.
I was just thinking if only the person who reviewed this code would have suggested that at the time. I wonder who that was.
Well, maybe the person who was reviewing this code wanted to make sure the project was done on time, and so they make little concessions. I mean, who,
Okay.
who knows who we're talking about?
Yeah, this is hypothetical. I know one of the things you really admire about me, Aaron, is my
Hmm.
excellent memory. I
Oh
I
yes.
never forget things, and you tell me something, and it's in the steel trap. It's there for good.
See, it's just yeah, yeah.
So it might surprise you to know that there are certain foods I forget I like, where we'll be ordering food or trying to agree on something, and I'll be like, I don't want that, and then my wife will say, no, you like that. I'm like, I do, and then I get it. You're like, oh yeah, I do like that. So like the two examples.
Well, you're like that old couple in like the restaurant where he's like, "What should I get?" And she points at them, "Get this." Oh, okay, I'll
Yep,
get that.
I'm
I
almost
love
there.
biscuits and gravy.
I do actually. So one of them is pecans. I love all nuts, so why wouldn't I like pecans? But we'll go at the store. And I'm like, no, get cashews or macadamia nuts, and like, you like pecans, and then I get them. Like I eat the whole can. I do like them. And the other one is a pizza topping artichoke hearts. I like them, but whenever she suggests, I'm like, I don't want that. But so, Aaron, does that surprise you, or do you have any foods that you forget you like?
Well, that doesn't surprise me about you, but I'll tell you a thing that you may not know about me.
Okay, and I'll forget it
And
later.
yeah, and this is I'm saying it out to the whole world now, so you can.
Mm,
So this is this is true, but it's an embarrassing. But I also say this because just in case there's anyone else who does this, so they
mm.
can feel not alone in their
Okay.
weirdness. So many years ago, I had a very similar sort of like process in my brain where I was like, I would buy things and forget I liked them, or like it started out with something I think it was like beef jerky. I ended up buying the same beef jerky over and over that
Mhm.
I didn't like, so I would buy it and I would
Oh,
like,
you
oh,
didn't
this is
like it.
horrible. Yeah, I didn't like it. I'd throw it out. And then like 2, 3 months later, I'd buy it again because
Mm,
it just was like, oh, what's that? I'm like, what's wrong with me, man? Or other things like sometimes, I'm like, I want a special treat, but I like for some reason now I'm hungry. I don't want to go to
mm.
the grocery store when I'm hungry, but I want to get something special, but I don't remember what I like now because I'm just angry.
Too hungry.
So, so I ended up. It started really small, but now it's grown huge. Is I have a list of things I like and things I
Mm.
don't, organized into topics,
What?
like household related stuff, um, foods, drinks, because like I find out I go through a lot of stuff, and so like I have a list of
Mm.
teas I like, brands and types, and
Okay.
teas I don't. Same thing with like maybe I'm weird, but I replace my pillows every 3 years or something.
Okay.
And I started realizing like, oh, I better keep track of the brands and types of pillow I like,
Yeah.
so that in 3 years from now, because maybe you couldn't find them on Amazon anymore or whatever, or
Yeah.
I bought them at Bed Bath and Beyond. And it's the same thing as like, okay, like there's one that I got made use of the other day, which was canned gravy.
Mm.
There's a lot of brands of canned gravy.
Sure.
Most of them are atrocious. There's like 2 or 3 that are good. And you don't want the crappy canned gravy
No.
when you want to have some gravy.
No.
So yeah, I keep. So it's not weird to me that you'd forget these things because I guess I must do too. So I keep a
Okay.
list of things I like and things I don't. And I hope no one ever sees it. When we're not recording podcasts, we're updating content on masteringLaravel.io.
Head over there, and we have a couple of free books that you can download with Laravel tips and tricks that'll make your applications better. It's masteringLaravel.io.